Okay, I guess I'll hit record. I was kind of tangenting because I'm getting kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be just spam making videos endlessly when people don't appreciate hearing what I have to say, regardless of the significance of it. Because partly, like, also it's kind of distracting to me. Like, it literally is a little distracting, but at the same time, I'm like, it slows down the process maybe. Like I'm not operating at the pace that I would usually be operating at, and like not distracting myself by choosing to record this. But so this is about ancient Rift Valley in Australia filled with super volcanoes and giant volcanic calderas. So yesterday, in my last video-ish, maybe,
What are you doing, sweetie? You learning how to walk today? Yeah, maybe I get you a little food.
I was watching stuff like this thinking that maybe I should record it, but then I'm like, people will judge me, and I'm like, what's wrong with me being like able to love this animal right here? Oh my god.
That's unusual. What's wrong? You want to come inside?
I'm afraid.
Do you want to come inside?
Where did mommy go?
That would be very weird. Hold on a second, okay?
Okay. I was trying to find though before I distracted myself. Then, Australia. So we've been looking at this. We have been. Once people are watching this, anyone who is watching my videos, we have been. And I noticed yesterday this feature under Australia that is, I strongly would suggest to be due to the Earth's expansion process, and I was saying essentially like a upwelling of energy that propagated especially in the Pacific region over here, or maybe oceanic coastal age into this region, and that Australia was there, and so it kind of like shoved Australia. And in my Dorka video, I say it's like surfing a wave. And then I saw this, and it physically has like it's like it was pushing in on this side of Australia, which would make sense since it moved it from over in the Pacific region of over northeast of where it is. Like in terms of it moved away from Asia and North America, and the Pacific opened, and it rode a wave away that's visible here. So I was just watching a video. I think he's talking about right here. That's why I didn't even Google this. It just came up, I didn't search for Australian related videos. It just came up. So because it did, it's 14 minutes, 15 minutes. I just figured I'd watch it and then hear what he's about to show. Grab my attention immediately. So maybe I'll just go back though, since I'm. So this is Oz Geographics. Oh yeah.
In the present-day town of Buchan, in Victoria's far east, we see
was a nice zoom in. I need to figure out how to do stuff like that. I did it with Google Maps, like maybe he did it the same way. Just kind of, but there's probably like actual ways to do it. That's more like videos I see where people kind of can like rotate and do all sorts of things in ways that are much more clean than I could do. Anyway,
town of Buchan in Victoria's far
okay, so here.
east, we see signs all over the place of the turbulent
So over here, or here, this general region, I guess. Let's look at the map there. So it's like here. If the it looks like if it like more so focused here, if it more so in this region, like that when the energy was expelled to push Australia physically from underneath it and move the entirety of the plate away from the Pacific, then the energy could have hit it unevenly. It looks like it maybe came in more so over here. Some over here to a point where it either was like another source over here, because it kind of looks like three sources, maybe even four, of like pushing sources on this body of the underneath Australia. And so maybe it's possible though if it's like more so just like one flow, which this would probably more so suggest than like four flows. I feel like we would maybe be able to see some subtlety in the data that would suggest there to be like separations like this, although this is obviously pretty coarse-grained, not fine-grained detail of the nuance of what's going on here. I'm not sure how like how precisely every monocle is mapped. Buy or subscribe. $32 or $120 a year. Oh dear God. Lithosphere's thickness. Whoa. The thickness of the crust. Look at that. So that's kind of like it came in from the Siberian traps, came in down here, and then it's separated. And I've talked about this before in here. Looks like that might be another one. Another of these particle type things right there. That also had a supernova of some sort. Like a chain reaction. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe all the way around it. Boom, 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 boom. To like carve around this section here. Of different sizes, starting with the biggest ones. The biggest one. A detectable one there, maybe. A pretty big one. Similar one there. Interesting. If it is happening. If that is some sort of explosion underground, maybe there. Like, they're so prominent potentially that it's everywhere. Let's see. This, okay, this is United States. So maybe it cut also into there, I was wondering. Nothing quite as, this is interesting. But this general shape here. Nothing quite as channel-y, like here maybe. But certainly not looking connected in the same way as over here. Appears like there's an actual connection. Like that does to... That for sure is related to that. Where is this? 148.3, 67.7. Let's see if that works. Degrees? I don't know. Maybe, or something? Is that degree? I don't know how to... Degrees. I just need the symbol, I guess. Degree symbol. Da-da-da. It might need to be east or north. East. And then 67.7. Let's say north. Maybe that. That's maybe. Is that up here? No. North. Does that make sense? East. That doesn't make sense. What? Wait, where is this? Sorry, I got a little distracted, I guess. This is this thing, okay, and it comes around. Is it just like it's so fast to wrap around back to Europe that it's right in freaking Europe? Or am I just mistaken on where I'm at? It's really hard to tell. This shape. That's pretty distinct. Yeah, it should be over here somewhere. I don't know what I'm doing with the finding it. Oh my god. Right there. It's right there. Longitude 148.38. Latitude 67.676. Finder, sure. 148.3, 67.7. Enter. Find. Dude, what are you guys doing? Oh my god, I can't do it the opposite way. Holy shit. I'm so sorry that I'm... okay, here. We can just go by this. Here's this thing. Okay, that's there. And then here's this thing. Okay, so it's pretty center here. Somewhere around here. Maybe here is the center. Should maybe make sense. It even looks like it has. Look at that. It has a spiral. Look. Boom. 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 Or maybe here actually. Boom. Holy shit, dudes. Boom. Out. Out into. Out into. Let's look at the thing. Out into this. Into this. Spiral that ends here. And has an arm here. Yes. Yes, that is there. Yes, it is a galaxy type structure there from a supernova type event. That would seems to have changed with that one. Okay. And then one over here. This one must be. It looks like, although that doesn't really. I mean, maybe that's why there's. This is where Hawaii doesn't. It's like kind of crazy. Here's Hawaii, like the chain, like it's visible. Interesting. It's which doesn't seem to be always the case. Features are not always visible. Here's the Hawaiian island chain, though, clear as day. I'd say we can see it, and it leads up to. And this corner here, which I've always thought like the way I've generally described it in the past is that the energy that from the explosion pushed into the continents reached in and basically deflected off of resistance and the resistance then reflected back, causing island arcs. That was what I said in the past. But now I'm thinking, now that I see this, that the resistance causing reflecting back is actually another particle supernova producing this. That's just at the basically at the edge of the continental shelf. Like there's always particles here. It's just there was so much energy flow here that they were all supernovaing. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. That seems in the data, I would say. Let's see if we can find it down this coast in a clear way. It's certainly not as evident down the coast, although that's real interesting. I'm not sure where that is. Thailand, maybe. Ish. Looks like maybe this. I did it! I'm like, did I get it right? I think it's in Thailand there. It even looks like it might like produce a natural border for the here. Interesting, that feature is actually close to this thing. So it's like the energy flow that came out here, maybe it even end here. Like it definitely played into the mountains in that region. But in terms of what passed through the barrier between the adjacent polygons, like broke a opening between the like through the barrier to actually get into the other system in essence. And then maybe it had some influence on causing this like separation, maybe. Yellow is still higher than normal. This is just much higher than normal, I guess. Could that be like a actual cathode, maybe? Not to keep bringing it back to that concept. It looks really yin and yang. That looks really yin and yang, like. Which also happens in Fiji. Kind of like a yin and yang, and for sure there's a separation of materials here. I think it's more like this way though, where this is like two halves, because it's two colliding energies. Here's a wave, and then there's another wave colliding with it, spiraling around. Let's see if we can see Fiji here, and if that would mean suggest anything. It's after this little turd. Here's Australia with that thing under it. Okay, that's a good like jumping off point. Cause where is, I don't know. Oh, there it is. Okay, okay. There's Fiji. Here we go. Underneath Fiji. I mean, it kind of looks like it could have a sort of like a shallogram shape, maybe. Not to say it is in any way. That's kind of central. Like there's a flow, like a magnetic field outline here. I'm not sure. That's kind of around Fiji and this other one. Oh, that's also Fiji. I'm like, I know things. I don't even know that's also Fiji. See this fucking cliff. No, no. Like, I know the thing, don't know the thing. Know the thing, don't know the thing. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. That's the thing. Let's continue. Okay, what did we find? We found a potential sort of current magnetic flows here, kind of looking like Laniakea or whatever, the supercluster, kind of like looking like that kind of thing. Just I mean, obviously, I'm just seeing things there. It's very subtle, and so people who doubt me, like, I don't. It's not important, really. I'm just pointing it out. Like, well, it's around Fiji. There's not much around Fiji, so if there's anything going on of interest, then maybe it is that there's like, and this is kind of at like a concentration point between the two. Maybe like it does have some of the features that I wouldn't like totally disregard it as a possibility. Maybe that even is part of why there's certain like fault lines or whatever in the oceanic crust. I guess we can't see it there. Okay, so this though, where this one looks like it exploded much more a Like an arrow. All those arrowheads. Wow, look at all the arrowheads. They just had so many arrowheads back in the day. Back in the day. These hunter-gatherers. They just all he made was arrowheads. We could tell they were there by the arrowheads. Oh yeah? Are you sure about that? Looks like the arrowheads. Some kind of like squeezing effect of so like a particle system that exploded and it had like a already two rounded systems like adjacent to it that caused a flow down a channel that also maybe had another systems, just the way it was to cause that kind of ripple. It looks like maybe is going on there, which maybe chained from here to this one, like this ripple doesn't looks like it did kind of go through, like it was able to break through to this particle, which then exploded that way. But it also maybe broke through this way to a particle over here. Like it's not just the explosion of this particle; it's the actual current passing through the Earth that's just like passing each system, causing this ripple of explosions of particles. Boom, boom, boom. This one looks very odd here. I don't know about that one in terms of what to make of it. From this analysis, obviously, I'm just like observing it and theorizing. One might say here seems to be maybe another roundedness that maybe has some basis in it here. Where are we? Where are we? There's... Okay. This is actually really revealing. Now that I notice this. The energy flows. Oh my god. They went right under Florida. Florida is just hanging out. The current just passed right under here, literally. Oh my god. Turn through here. Under here. So maybe that's part of why it cut to the Pacific so easily. Is it wasn't just following the fault lines, because essentially the way I approached it was looking at a map like this saying, okay, well, like this. It's saying based on just the age of the crust, oceanic crust, we can say if a fracture started, it would have started here. If the Earth was expanding and there was a fracture sequence, it would be here, down this way, and then this way between the two along the coastline, and then follow this way. But really what appears to have happened was it went this way, but like was also carving underneath the United States, especially here. Underneath, like it was able to cause a resistance here. Like a polygon is here. And when the energy was able to go underneath, like it was flowing underneath the crust and reaching an actual edge, like a stoop is that like a hat? It's like a hat. It's like a hat, like this. This region this is Florida. Okay, you guys understand. And all of this though, Like all of this was actually had a channel. I mean, it's filled in. It's not like it's utterly empty and void. It's got stuff in it. It's just lower density. How lower density? I'm just observing it right now. I don't know. I haven't really investigated it or enough to think it through. But just it's lower density, and so it literally, I mean, maybe there's actually a barrier here. It looks like there was a barrier here where it fractured, but it actually was able to, the underground, the barrier was actually broken here and here, right here, so that the current of this like flowing material went through here, which is probably how it was able to reach like the actual energy, the bulk of the energy necessary to push up mountains was able to actually reach the Appalachians was through this channel here that it opened. Maybe up here. Oh, wait, let me look at the Flemish Cap real quick. This is probably revealing for holy. Where is that? Negative 40, 16.7. That's like down here. I don't even. Is it? I'm just wondering if it's near. Let's just go to the Azores Plateau. Okay, it's not there. Because there's the idea that Atlantis was sunk into the ocean, and like that's a little odd right there. Although maybe it happened. I'll not get caught up on that right now. So the energy flow, it looks like one occurred here also. For sure, here's one. So let's see. And maybe it also, I don't know what to think about that. Because it almost would suggest it, like, would influence it that way rather than from the, although actually it probably did, like it went under it and then it came out of the fault. Like maybe. I'm being ridiculous maybe, but okay. So it comes through, it manages though to come through here for sure. And through under Florida for sure. We see it just shattered this region. It was able to just go right through. And then it pushed in and it bounced in a shallogram fashion, dudes. Any of these, but I want a good one also. Like the just I need one that shows like here. No. Of course, after all that, I pick one that doesn't even have it at all. Around the edges, how it like cuts between. Here's a good one. It cuts between like to a point where there's actually gaps. But where it does it, it carves a shape like this. That's what I was looking for. I just was thinking I was talking about that. The shapes of these mounds. That is very reminiscent of that. Not. Then it looks like the energy actually like came up this way even, swirled in from here, and the Pacific was not open yet. Oh, look at that. What is that, Yellowstone? That's gotta be Yellowstone. Unless, like, that's Yellowstone, maybe. This is like an extinct super volcano. Here's another one. Holy crap, the things in this data, dudes. What? This must be well established by now, all these obvious huge craters, right? Maybe they're just not, like, they're too deep to explain. So people are like, well, they're not craters. So there's really not much. I'll have to see, like that one's known. And how big is this? This is tiny, dudes. It's tiny compared to those. That's crazy though, right here. This probably. Oh my god, I wish I could. Now I need to map the United States under this. It's really complex under the United States, Canada. This stuff is really different. South America, when the Earth expanded, the flows went along the coast here. So let's go over here. It went basically here. We could probably follow it pretty well. Here's Dwarka. Here, highly possible is like some of the flows went that way, and then the flows started to propagate this way, somewhere through the data. It looks like here there's some motion through here, literally from Dwarka over this way. Dwarka was literally like right here, somewhere like there, and a vortex weapon was used on it, and so it carved a path that went to the Mediterranean. It looks like it went through this way and found a way to basically here. So it was also flowing underneath Africa. Until it reached outside of Africa, which is interesting because this is where the mountains are in Africa. It's kind of, or no, they're here. Here. So the mountains are here. Maybe they're related to how the flow, maybe it kind of just pushed mounds over here that basically are those mountains. I don't know when they were built exactly. Mountains. Mountain range in, where is this? Morocco. Let's just find an age real quick. Moyen Atlas, Hot Atlas, and Anti-Atlas. Geology? Anyone gonna... no discussion. Oh. Anti-Atlas age. 300. Okay. That actually fits pretty well then. So it probably was produced, that one, from this current flowing here from Dwarka, gathering current and just literally, because a vortex weapon was used, which caused a literal vortex so massive that it essentially separated atoms apart from one another in an actual gap, like no atoms here, that was big enough to then allow ether to funnel from the cosmos into the earth. And it then looks like it went down this way, over here, also up here, I guess, but mostly over here, probably, although maybe not. Oh, it looks like actually up this way a lot. Oh, yeah, probably up this way more. Now that I'm looking at it, like this was a small channel, a smaller channel than this. Like it went up this way. Here, maybe this is later formed, I'm not sure. Swept across. I mean, this is coming out over there. This is huge. This region that it kind of like opens up from. Holy crap. It just starts this tiny thing and just opens up wide. Maybe even connects through a little bit, but that's probably not until the particle over there exploded. And then it goes through, it looks like. There also, but that's there. Well, I forget what I was even specifically looking for. And I guess it goes this way, comes over, and then from here, cuts across, starts channeling through between the polygons, but also along the polygon, and then it breaks this polygon, pushing these regions, and then kind of looks like it probably got trapped in other polygons along the way here, but also had enough energy maybe to carve some outlets just to drain into wherever. Like maybe this is just oceanic crust just flowing through. That was ultimately, I don't know, that doesn't really make sense though. It's probably just heat flows that and with materials of various variety. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let's see what else we find. Oh yeah, I was looking kind of here. So then, here's the tip of Africa. Energies also went, this is cool, down this way. It's really not visible very much here. That's interesting, like a previous outline that it literally traveled along a previous outline. What? That's incredible. What the frick is that? Why is it staggered like two? Oh my god. What? Or is it? It's got to be based on positions. It's like steady state rested in Africa, but then like movements of the Earth and the various supernovas just cause like moved it from over like causing this to causing this one to causing this one based on its position till it's finally where it is, kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm just very confused by this. Trying to think it through. It's certainly of interest. I'm sure someone else looking at it could have some epiphany if they are. back to here. Okay, I lost 45 minutes in and how 7 seconds.
History that occurred here. The Devonian era was a time of marked chaos and destructivity for the land of southeastern Australia. When the Buchan Rift formed, it ushered in some of the most impressive and powerful volcanoes that Victoria has ever seen. Ancient limestone caves are dotted all throughout the land, from the ancient coral reefs that once existed here. At first, the land fractured.
The porosity is certainly a common outcome of the supernova events to cause to basically vent. The venting occurs, but then the vents are basically not fully filled and they're not filled the same as they were before. So basically we have regions that appear to have like large porosity due to large flows that were passing through them at a time.
Only a little, but with time, it would continue to rift and split apart, forming the large Rift Valley that we can clearly see today. Welcome to Oz Geographics. The Buchan Rift is very easy to make out on maps, but it's on the magnetics and gravity where it really stands out. Here we can see the rift borders and the massive amount of varying eruptions that took place here in the form of the many circular features that exist. I mean, it's literally filled with calderas, both small and large. When the rifting occurred here, vast, and I really do mean vast, amounts of magma was able to...
Remember, my thought was Australia just gets kind of shoved out of the way by this, like, supernova of the planet where there's an emission of enough energy to move the continent out of its position, which we were looking at this because of, since it's been 45 minutes since I talked about it.
easily intrude the crust as it rose up from the mantle to fill the voids that were being created by the rifting here. And in doing so, the extremely hot basaltic magma began to melt the older silica-rich volcanic rocks that were all around it, changing the chemistry and raising the level of silica, leading to the massive explosive eruptions that have occurred all over the place. On top of this, we have a number...
When I saw this, I had to hit record, that's why. It's like...
of areas around the rift.
Explosive eruption. Like, they're pretty much like... visually demonstrating, maybe not exactly, but pretty much the concept of this upwelling that pushes the continent.
Where rhyolitic lava was extruded en masse, not in explosive eruptions, but in lava flows, and the only time that this happens is after a massive eruption occurs, because a massive eruption releases so much of the volatile gases and pressure that was contained in the magma that it allows what is left over to rise up and extrude after the eruption, even if what is left is this extremely thick rhyolitic magma. It is extremely rare to see this magma flow as lava, and so this event really only ever occurs after a massive violent eruption has ended. Now let's...
You mean like the supernova of a planet, or like a substantial particle within the planet, at the minimum?
Get into the actual layers of ignimbrite that exist here. Geologists
Pardon me.
put the ignimbrite flows that occurred...
Ignimbrite? We are looking at... I'm trying to see if there's like an edge. This must be really zoomed in. Looking for the coastline.
Here under one big group, known as the Snowy River Volcanic System, and take a look at how big it is. So, as you can probably deduce from seeing this, the first thing to understand about this area is it's an absolute mindfuck. There are so many ignimbrite flows.
Snowy... Oh, you're saying it's like where a supernova...
Snowy River Volcanic System, and
Snowy River Volcanic System or something. Da-da. That's the best we got. There's Snowy River. Alright.
And take a look at how big it is. So, as you can probably deduce from seeing this, the first thing to understand about this area is it's an absolute mindfuck. There are so many ignimbrite flows, at least 36, and these weren't little explosions, these were massive eruptions that released
400.
layer after layer of pyroclastic flows from all over the place time and time again. And many of these ignimbrite flows cover up past calderas and make the landscape incredibly convoluted and confusing to read. All up, the Snowy River
400 million years ago, I said. It's a little early, I'd say, but in terms of my analysis, not to make it like that's like, oh no. Just still, it seems a little early, that's all.
volcanics are divided into 18 subgroups, of which at least 36 ignimbrite layers exist.
Which just means maybe there's something unaccounted for, that's all. Let's keep going.
Along with several rhyolitic lava flows and differing shallow intrusives. There are numerous eruption points spanning from north to south, creating dozens of calderas, many of which would be buried by each successive eruption that followed, making the interpretation of this land incredibly difficult. One thing to keep in mind is this map that I'm using will
I'm gonna listen to that again.
spanning from north to south, rhyolitic lava flows and differing shallow intrusives. There are numerous river volcanics are divided into 18 subgroups, of which at least 36 ignimbrite layers exist, along with several rhyolitic lava flows and differing shallow intrusives. There are numerous eruption points spanning from north to south, creating dozens of calderas, many of which would be buried by each successive eruption that followed, making the interpretation of this land incredibly difficult. One thing to keep in mind is this map that I'm using will sometimes say Snowy River Volcanics, and other times it will actually list the ignimbrite layer, but all layers associated with this rift are associated with the Snowy River Volcanics. I don't know why it does that, but it unfortunately just does. A lot of this video will be my own speculation and theories regarding what could be possible calderas, and it is not official by any means. Geologists have classified this area into the differing outcropping tuff layers, and no research that I'm aware of has really been focused on mapping out the calderas, so we're going to give it a go using magnetics and gravity, and seeing if they match up with the corresponding tuff layers. Do keep in mind that because these formed while the rift was active, they could be more spread apart than they originally were when they formed. Before we get started, if you'd like to see a follow-up episode of this where I go to the Buchan Rift in person and shoot some drone footage as well as explore the cave system and volcanic calderas, please click the like button. Let's get started. Thankfully, we can easily see the most well-known caldera when viewed under the magnetics. This part of the caldera is particularly amazing though because the erosion in the center of it has just started revealing the intrusive rocks that exist underneath the massive caldera that were at one point in time fueling the magma.
Very early.
Chamber. The Waratah flat granite formed in the Silurian, and the tuff layer above it is the Snowy River Volcanics. I think there are actually two calderas here, a larger one and possibly a smaller one, and it's surrounded by a tiny amount of basalt flows. Up north, we have this beast that I actually think is 8 calderas spaced right near each other, like this. The reason I say this, aside from the shapes and the magnetics, is because multiple tuff layers exist in this one area overlapping one another. We have the White Monkey Volcanic.
Does he have a reference to that magnetics? I'd like to see. Darn.
volcanic group, the
Might say when he
Bowen-Track,
switches
Douglas, Statham, and Minchin Ignimbrite, along with the Mackinson Spur Tuff, and another separate Snowy River rhyolite layer, and quite possibly the Dedic rhyodacite layer. By now, you probably understand why I said this area is super confusing. Well, that's nothing, because when we move a little west, now we have a mass of recent basaltic lava flows that occurred here within the past 50 million years, and these are actively hiding tuff layers. But let's try our best to work this out. We know something big happened.
50 million, so that occurred. The first one is for sure like an initial event. And the second one is from the supernova of the Earth, which was when everything happened 66 million years ago, pretty much leading into. This must have just allowed a channel for an upwelling of more material to just flow out of. That
Happened here. Aside from the magnetics showing large circular features, we have the Dingo Hill lava flows, which are ancient rhyolite lava flows that occurred after a massive caldera-forming eruption happened here, which I assumed was related to this caldera, which actually looks to have another smaller caldera within it, with another looking to exist just southwest of that one. It's hard to know which layer is associated with this, but something of this size might have released the very widespread Galentipi ignimbrite, or Galentipi ignimbrite, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's also possible the caldera actually looked like this, and that it released either the aforementioned
He's not noticing this thing. This thing is certainly relevant. Pardon me. Is this what he's even looking at? He's got a way better map. Probably of the region.
ignimbrite, or the Glen Shiel or Statham ignimbrite, or the Glen Shiel or Statham ignimbrite. Moving a little north, and we have an outline or possibly two that appear to look like much.
Dude. Have you seen my, Oh my god, the new shit I'm on. I'm also recording, and streaming. For the recording, I'm streaming. Have I showed you this? This map? Okay. Well, it's got me on this whole chain of events. Whole chain of events. Oh my god, dude. I guess I could just, it would probably be good to finish this. I'll just keep
older
playing
ring
for now.
dikes that have been covered up by preceding tuff layers, and this will be a reoccurring theme, unfortunately, as the only eroded bit underneath this massive Statham ignimbrite layer only states that it is a Snowy River rhyolite. So I have no way of identifying this tuff layer that is underneath it, and that might be associated with these caldera-like formations that we see. Now, all throughout here, you'll see smaller circular structures, which definitely could be older, smaller calderas that formed, like here. But for the sake of both yours and my time, I'm going to try to stick with the larger eruptions only. But every now and then, the maps will show dots in smaller features, showing you an area I think might be a smaller caldera. Heading north again, and we see these faded protrusions. This definitely looks like ring dikes to me, either one or two, with what looks like a third and fourth existing just a little north of them.
Oh my
Now, some of
god. This looks like a bunch of pebbles to me.
the corresponding tuff layers might be buried and are no longer exposed, but some that are the Wombago subgroup, the Black Mountain and Black Satin ignimbrite layers, the Wolgolmerang volcaniclastics, and like always, the Snowy River volcanic group. Moving south now, and we have this circular feature here, along with smaller ring shapes from what looks to be another eruption. These look to be related to the Glenshiel Ignimbrite and Trendale Formation, both of which have been covered up heavily by preceding eruptions, and they barely outcrop today. And here we have some of the Bucking Caves and the associated limestone, which you can see is all over the place from the coral reefs that once existed here when this area was sea 400 million years ago.
Oh, I thought he said fucking. It's like timely. I was thinking some asshole shit. Oh, you know, not asshole, but just like, it's not quite exactly, but maybe it will have information where sometimes I'm just like, okay, next subject, but I'll probably look for some more videos on this. It's just very focused on the details. I'm looking for more of a general thing, I guess.
Ago. Now things get a little complicated here. There are circular features which
Pardon me though, sir.
look to be calderas,
Please.
along with other more subtle features, which hint to the possibility of the existence of one.
Here's one.
Like this one here, which is an active ignimbrite field made up of the Tolok Ard, Mooncan and Dataka ignimbrite layers, which has the Little River subgroup outcropping in the middle of it. I mean, something big definitely happened here, because we also have the Raymond Falls rhyolite lava flow that occurred post-caldera collapse. So this outline is telling, but what about this incredibly thick line of completely different ignimbrite layers that only exist in this area? Are these possible caldera outlines? Was the volcanic activity here so immense that it built this area up, or was it uplifted long after the volcanoes died? I'm not sure, but it's only here where I can seem to find these tuff layers, which are the Dead Cattle Gully, Dunalik, Doyle Gully, Biman, Plum Gully, Mount Dawson, McRae's, Carson Creek, and Lookout Top ignimbrite layers. So it looks like a lot happened here.
Holy shit. A lot of information. A lot of specifics that because I'm not like actually a geologist, none of these words were ignimbrite, like they're not resonating unless they are something I've like ran into before. Like I can tell there's a lot of different rocks. There's a lot of a wide spectrum of things happen here, which may be a supernova of the planet in some way. Could have influenced.
There also might have been one, but more likely two, and possibly even three calderas here. West of that, we have another few circular protrusions, starting with the smaller one at the top.
Oh, I mean, it's crazy that within the large one, there's a bunch of small ones, and then within the bunch of small ones, there's probably a bunch of smaller ones, kind of like how this red one has these white ones, and this white one has this white one, so there's like, in that way.
It looks to be associated with the Woolshed Creek ignimbrite, and as we move south, we can see two rather large circular features here and here. These look to be associated with the Yellow Waterholes, Dix Creek, Gordon Creek, and Frying.
I'm like, you gotta be trolling me. Not notice the huge
Pan
circle.
Creek ignimbrite layers. This was definitely an area of pronounced volcanism.
As I had that thought, Dix Creek. Don't be a dick, man. Maybe you just didn't notice. Sorry. That's how it is, though.
As we see the Dinner Hill
It's just such a large scale that, like, I'm literally looking on a large scale, so, like, to such a degree where when it's on a smaller scale to the point where I'm not able to tie it to like the greater movements of the earth as a whole as easily, it becomes less coherent, I guess, in my understanding as a result of it, because it's just like for sure that this would benefit from being a geologist to listening to this one specifically because of the detail orientation. Just not that there's details, but the orientation of the details, maybe.
Gap rhyolitic lava flows here, which released a very
I'm sorry, I don't want to judge. I feel like now I'm just like being a judgmental ass. Maybe I shouldn't publish this.
Thick and large amount of rhyolite lava. Now moving on, and a little to the
I'm just talking.
south of this, and we have a tough layer that I can only find around this hard to make out circular feature. The Jolung Ignimbrite layer just barely outcrops over here, and on the magnetics, it looks like there's possibly 2, 3, or maybe even 4 overlapping calderas here. One thing that might surprise you is that this little caldera looking shape here is actually the lava dome that was formed by the rhyolitic lava flows of the Raymond Falls layer. The faulting here shows a ring dike-like shape to it, and we have the Fluke Knob, Canny, Rankin Road, and Tomato Creek Ignimbrite layers here. Around here is also these castor oil lava layers. There are 2 of them, a rhyolitic version and a mafic version of it, that were released around the same time. So that's the rundown on this massive rift zone. Now let's move on and head west, just a little out of the Rift Valley, to this beautiful circular feature that is the most visually striking feature that we will see all night.
Timbara. I don't understand why. It doesn't work. Whoa. Okay. What in the... Yeah, this is just potholed with these impact looking things. Here's one. That must be visible in the data.
When viewed under a fault map. This is probably the most perfect ring dike that I've ever seen in Victoria. I mean, come on, you can't beat this. The magnetics aren't as perfect as the fault map, but they are still almost completely circular. This eruption released the Fainting Range Ignimbrite Tuff Layer, which contains rare quartz phenocrystals.
Is that a challenge? He's telling me to beat it. He told me to. He literally said you can't, so he told me to. It's I like it through layers, like he was saying. Look for some things here. Maybe there's something here that I didn't notice. Can I zoom? I don't know. This doesn't seem to have much better resolution as I zoom in. For sure there's one here. That's visible mostly there. Maybe through here a bit. Here maybe. And this inner one even. Where is that? That is probably here, honestly. I think that's probably a part of it. There's one. It's like the waves are a result of them, like it's a cascading supernova. It's not quite as distinct down here. Maybe there was a border here that got broken through, or out of. This looks like one here. This whole thing is one. Like, this is literally just a huge one on top of others. Like, they're staggered. Like they're... I don't know why it would be just like adjacent ones. It's just like one after another. It's there when it's not happening like that elsewhere. Let's see what else happens. This is crazy. Like, what in the... That? What? And then it comes out here, and then there's like a mound and its trail. Comes out this way. Here it comes through, breaks through. So these are literally... They're pushing on the underbelly of Australia so much that it literally carves channels. And then those channels that it carves start to branch out like dendrites, where then they reconverge and meet and branch out large to this side of Australia, with this splitting section in it where it literally reaches the boundary and breaks through it. Some of it, not all of it, but enough to, like, it's pushing on the boundary, breaking through it, but because it broke through it, maybe it also stopped moving while flowed through underneath it. Like, it was able to rest in its final position more so with the openings along the sides that were carved through it by the explosiveness. Here's probably one. That looks like one there. It almost looks like a spiraling one. It wraps around. Here too. Here's one. Oh my god. But then this arcs out.
Within it. I couldn't find a size of this tuff layer, but there does exist another alongside it, known as the Slater Ignimbrite, whose depth I also couldn't find, to no one's surprise by this point. The actual system itself is known as the Mount Elizabeth Caldera Complex. So we're down to our final few outliers that occurred in the early Devonian. Just west
I'm sorry.
of the Rift Zone, we have these layers of Ignimbrite, one of which might be familiar. So we have the Carriage Range, Tin Pot, and Quindalup Ignimbrite, as well as, what is this? The Snowy River Volcanics. That's right, as you can see, this massive amount of horizontal faults allowed magma from the Rift Zone to also erupt here by travelling through these faults. The eruptions were far less frequent here though, and we can barely make out the caldera shapes, but if I was to guess, I'd say this is how it looked. Along with this, we have the Sapper Nose Rhyolite member, which started life as a submarine lava flow, along with the Thorkadan Volcanics, and this actually links all the way through to the rift itself, showing the correlation and direction of magma travel. As we move a little further north, we can see the outlines of the small caldera.
Arc in an arc, reminiscent of the Himalayas. Let's look. Let's see. I'm not sure I can find if this is it. I don't know.
That released the best forward Ignimbrite layer. And after this, we come to our final few possible caldera locations. The magnetics here are quite clear. This big ring shape with another one or possibly two calderas existing just north of it.
It's literally a finger pointing in a direction. It's like, look right here. Did you see right here? Look right here is what it's doing. I'm not sure where it's pointing exactly.
Which looks to be associated with the Mitter, Shiva's Spur, Larson Creek,
I just don't have the map he has to look at. Oops, I keep thinking
and Murtagh Creek Ignimbrite layers. We have some clear ring dike outlines on the faults here, and the magnetics are really the only way to identify what seems to be these very faded caldera-shaped outlines here.
10 kilometers, so this is 20 kilometers maybe at most tall.
And just north of this, we have our final caldera.
Honestly, it kind of makes me think of the Indian. I know it's not quite in this shape. That Indian symbol. Hindu symbol. Hindu symbols. Hindu symbols. You guys know what I'm talking about. Who does? And if you don't, okay. Hand, finger pointing. That one. The hamsa hand. Hamsa hand. I didn't know that was his name. Depicting the open right hand, an image recognized and used as a sign of protection and many times throughout history. Palm-shaped amulet. Da-da-da. Okay, I don't know. It's whatever. That's
Lines here.
kind of
And just north of this,
I don't think it's the first time I've seen like a kind of finger pointing hand on the ground, like pointing in a direction, not like pointing at people.
we have our final caldera. This mess of heavily faulted ignimbrites is known as the Jemba ignimbrite. So around the time...
See the difference though? The earth is like, look over there. And the government's like, what have you done? That's fine, you. Bill, how much was your car? Okay, no. What, you got a Mercedes? Congratulations on your purchase. Okay, that'll be $20,000, please. Alex Jones, that'll be $1 billion, please. Just throw that in there.
that these volcanic systems were
The absurdity of that.
alive, another system
For people who don't know, that shit didn't happen as it's told by the government, so he had the right to speak about it because it's not fucking true as said, so maybe let's clear it up first. Fucking kangaroo court indeed.
was active in Western Victoria, and that is a
Unless it's all a show, like you guys are part of the show. We're tricking them.
topic for another video, as it released highly precious rhyolite lava flows that are filled with gems and geodes that exist in present day, and I think that makes it worthy of a video of its own. So after this, we had a tiny wave of volcanism in the Middle Devonian during the orogeny that occurred, but things wouldn't really pick up until the orogeny reached its end, when in the late
Devonian is what again? Just...
Devonian, the largest caldera-forming eruptions to exist in Victoria occurred, and we've already covered them in part 1. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like.
Oh. Maybe there was a part 1 this time. This just came out too. He just posted this. This super volcano keeps melting roads. Oh my god. Oh damn. Let's look over here. There's a super volcano here. Where's New Zealand? That's Tasmania. New Zealand is over here. Okay, there it is. It is under a surprisingly empty channel. Like, definitely some flows underneath it. Interesting. Channel flows. That's odd. It basically formed an outer polygon here that kind of behaves like a a barrier for this flow to flow along here. Literally, it flows along this barrier around here, through here. And then probably just across here. Odds are reaching back up into here, into that region maybe. What else can we see before I hit stop and post this immediately again? I'm just spamming videos, but I'm making progress, so why not? This probably gives some insight into how these things form generally, where there's features like that, like maybe like this even. Or like generally how Florida formed. Like Florida formed like this, same process, and then it had a flow underneath it that stripped away some of it and changed it in some ways. It ultimately ended up being Florida as it is today, but I mean, shaped from a core, like a matrix. Shaped from a matrix. This is kind of like approaching the ammonite phase. Even though there's a lot of underwater Florida. Okay, what else? Maybe the Tamagumi. Tamagumi? I don't know. Where's Hudson Bay? Is that Hudson Bay? That must be Hudson Bay. Up here, there it is. The whole of it. Okay. It's interesting, like this is really covered. For sure there's a circle here. That makes sense though, that there was a flow passing under here. Literally, there's a flow somehow flowing this way. Looks like there was a particle here. A supernova-ish there. Is that yellow? That's just Yellowstone, isn't it? And then it carved in this way. But really, was that fed by from here? Like this came across. It looks like it somehow managed, maybe from up here even, in part, to get into this region underneath and start carving westward, and then meeting eastward flows as well when the Pacific was exploding into existence. Maybe here's an arc here, maybe-ish. That's for sure pretty circular, I'd say, with some added trend this way from drainage. Looks like drainage went through the circle, cut through. Yeah, so back before I leave, just a recap. Looks like maybe I'll just go back here entirely. Is this where I was? Where am I? Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, I was like, whoa, I just found another huge one. No, I already found that one. Okay. Here. Over to this one. Over to this one. It must have blown its top here. Maybe this is it blowing its top. In another way? But this is... the Pacific, or the Antarctica, I believe, is it blowing its top. But this sure looks like it underneath it. This particle, it comes over here, reaches this particle. This one explodes. And then this one explodes. Coming over here, this one explodes. Cars through here to this one, it explodes. To this one, it explodes. This one explodes here. Probably one centered here, like around there. One here. Here, here, here. Bunch of them going off, just all going off, popping off, popping off, popping off, popping off. So maybe this is it blowing its top, and I know $1 billion for words. I just noticed that. For words. I spoke on Reddit. Someone was like, "You're just like Alex Jones." I'm like, I hope that you get just like treated just like you have Alex Jones fortune. I was like, all right. You know, that's nice. I appreciate the like sarcastic support that actually probably energetically supportive is supportive. Although that maybe sheds light on my sarcastic non-support when I'm not being supportive by being sarcastic unsupportively. This explodes. It seems to go around the top here. Can I zoom out a little? Oh, it definitely opens a channel this way. Down into. So maybe that's... I mean, the Rockies are young. So maybe that is what's going on. The channel comes this way. Comes here. Swirls around here a bit. Which is where Yellowstone is. Swirls around in a centrifugal force. So basically that it comes in not directly. It doesn't just go right at it and hit it and cause like an explosion. It swirls around it into it like a drain down a drain when it comes indirectly, like at the side but adjacent. But if it comes directly at it, it'll just explode. So it must like be related to the adjacent tangential inlet of the flow. If it happens to be like that, those are the circumstances that are at play, that it does pass tangentially, then it can flow into it like that. If there's a large enough particle there, which then exploded, it looks like, and also carved this direction outward and outward down here, and just at that point it was much more able to freely like flow, like the energy was expelled, whereas this side is more from the flows coming in this direction, up, pushing up to here. Maybe the Baja Peninsula is sort of like a, where it happened to be both, like coming across this way and this way. I think that's all pretty good. Like, I mean, I'm sure several of the things I just said are actually correct. Crazy. Okay, this strongly supports that the ether cut across. I've been saying Well, even though South America has this like sticking protrusion out here, that was actually formed when the Earth expanded. This section, because it really follows a phi ratio underneath it all the way around. Like this follows all the way around nice and smooth with this like additive, this accretion, which this strongly corroborates that the accretion is an accretion in that the ether flowed that way. And it looks like it came around. It even it managed to flow into South America, it looks like, from this section and produce some type of interaction with systems there. Like that one maybe cross, but it doesn't look like it necessarily caused any supernovas. There's definitely not as many like circles. Like maybe that's something. Maybe that's something there. I guess it did. That's probably one there. And they're even probably at the nodes of the polygons. There's one. How is this not known yet? It must be because we can't explain it that we ignore it. There's too many circular crater type features in this data to not explain any of it yet. So they must just ignore and be like, we don't know that it's blah blah blah, we don't know blah blah blah, we don't know blah blah blah, and just kind of like ignore it. Until come back to it, let's say. We'll say come back. We'll come back to it later. But ignore it forever, and then when anyone talks about it in like a critical way to try to analyze it, it's like, we're busy ignoring it, okay? Here's my right hand and my hamster hand, okay? We're busy ignoring it. This is cool. Trying to think what it reminds me of. Galactic. Maybe even Mount Grenard. Maybe Mount Grenard, like kind of like a Mount Grenard center. It's more of a square. I'm just wishful thinking though. That there's some connection between Mount Grenard and this is a wishful thinking. I got 2 more shallograms today. They were $19 or something. Okay, I'm going to show these and then I'm going to end this video. Because I think that's good enough. So let me enlarge. Hello. I know. It sucks. I need a better way, I know. I would like to have a camera with like a desk and a light and a microscope, or not a microscopes too, but like just a magnifying glass that I can look through the camera with, and although maybe just a camera, a good enough camera, but like also look through the camera with for like streaming it or videoing it and literally inspect these things, like closely inspect shallograms from like my angle of perception. Let's see, here's the other one. Whoa. Energy flows in the room just went wow. Just like through my ear kind of thing. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out.